So today I thought I would go through how to bind controllers and sort of everything you need to know about it because it can be really confusing. Um, so I have two controllers here that I'm going to use for demonstration. I have my Xbox controller here, and then I have my proper transmitter that I use for model airplanes. Haven't used it in a while. But I'm going to start with my Xbox controller, and Xbox controllers and PlayStation controllers will probably work the best, at least for right now. My transmitter doesn't work properly. I'll go over it. But right now, for me, the Xbox controller works the best. So I'm going to go over how you bind stuff, what different things do, and all the basics like that. So when you open FPVKamikazeDrone, go to Settings. And if you want, you can do this in a mission, which probably is a good idea. So I'm just going to launch a mission here.
Readiness, damn it.
And right now I'm using my keyboard and mouse. You can use your keyboard and mouse at the same time if you want, just to navigate through the UI and stuff, because it's a little easier. So when you press escape, go to settings, go to controls. You have controller and keyboard and mouse. By default, keyboard and mouse will be selected unless you have a controller plugged in. Controller settings. Here you have throttle level at stick middle, which is self-explanatory. But what we want to look at is here, use standard gamepad. You want to make sure this is off. It does work if you have it on, but it lacks in customability. So I would always have use standard gamepad off. So right now what we're going to do is focus on the Kamikaze drone. Then we'll go over real quick the operator, spectator, striker, and vehicle. These are all of our axes. This right here, right now you can see it's reading the sticks. But if I were to say this is your pitch. So you have throttle, yaw, pitch, roll. Those are your three axes, and then you have respawn, which is a button, which I believe yeah, okay. So real quick, yaw is when you look left and right. Pitch is look up and down. And roll is roll back and forth. So throttle is throttle, up or down. Well, there's no down really, but let's say if we see here, I have my throttle bound to axis 31 right now. If we look at 31, if you don't know which axis is 31, you can just push some buttons until you see it light up. There you go, it's right there. Okay, so my throttle is the x-axis on the left stick. And you can see my stick is a little bit janky. So just ignore that and pretend it's nice and smooth. But let's say I wanted the throttle to be one of the triggers. So let's say we want it to be the right trigger. If I pull the right trigger, you see here, okay, that is axis 35. So what we want to do is bind. It's listening. Pull the trigger. Done. So now you can see on the right here, the trigger moves that instead. And if I move my left stick up and down, it's not doing anything. So what this represents, what these things represent, is basically if you were to use a proper transmitter. Proper transmitters have the throttle on the left side, up and down. They have the yaw on the left side, left and right. And they have the pitch and the roll on the right. The throttle doesn't spring back, as you can see, so you can hold throttles and stuff. On the right side, everything does. So that's what those squares on the right are representing. Anyways, something you want to make sure, if you have it bound to a trigger, like I said, we have it bound to axis 35 right now, the throttle. If you have it bound to trigger, make sure the trigger box is checked. Because if you have it off, it's going to think that it is a stick. So whenever you are using a trigger, make sure you have the trigger box checked. Make sure when you're using a stick that you don't have the trigger box checked, because it becomes really weird. My advice is to bind it as if it were a real transmitter, which would be bind the throttle to the left x-axis. Okay, I don't know if I was saying the axis wrong, but up and down is y, left and right, or horizontal is x. Anyways, I'd bind the throttle to the y-axis on the left stick as if it were a real transmitter. So go to throttle, press bind, and there you go. Now, if for some reason the listening key doesn't work, maybe it's sensing something else, you can go here to this little drop-down menu, and you can select which axis you want. So here you can just select axis 31, or whichever axis your left vertical stick is. Yaw, I would do your x-axis, your horizontal axis on your left stick, right here, which for me is axis 30. Remember, if you don't know what axis it is, just move the stick and it shows you up here, axes. And then for pitch and roll, I'd do pitch on the right y-axis and roll on the right x-axis. So the last thing with the KamikazeDrone is the respawn button, which I have bound to, I believe it's my B button. But the buttons are easy because you can just press it and then, yeah, it does that. So the way that I have it set right now is, if you go here to, let's go now to spectator, which is what the drone that you spawn in. Here you have yaw, pitch, and roll, which these ones, you don't really roll. It's more move forward, backwards. You also have zoom, camera tilt, throttle up and throttle down because it hovers. So you decide how high or how low it is. And here we have respawn, which is basically spawn a drone. And you can see that I have it at button 4 right now, but on the KamikazeDrone, I have it at button 7. The reason I have that is because sometimes when I would push my respawn button, it would sense it as me pushing it twice. So I would just spawn in a drone and then immediately go back to the spectator. So I have it bound to different buttons right now. All of this is like normal binding. Here you can see all these buttons. Some buttons work, some buttons don't. I will go over that with my transmitter here in a moment. But with the yaw, pitch, and roll, pitch is more like forwards and backwards, but you don't tilt around and stuff, you just move forwards and backwards. You also have increase and decrease zoom, which right now for me is my triggers. So you can see increase, decrease, increase zoom is axis 32. Oh, 32. Sorry, that's decrease. Decrease zoom is axis 32. Increase zoom is axis 35. You can see those are the triggers. And then I have the yaw, pitch, and roll bound the same as the KamikazeDrone. Also, by the way, I wouldn't do auto calibrate for you. Anyways, operator, if we go here, this one I have not touched. This one should be, if you're using a transmitter, I would just switch back and forth from your keyboard, because it's going to be hell to use this to move around a guy if you're playing multiplayer. If you're playing with an Xbox controller, the default setup should be good. Striker. The only difference between this and the spectator drone is this has another button, which is drop ammo. I have it bound to this button, I believe. You can bind it to whatever button you want as long as it doesn't have any more actions. And then vehicle, I have standard gamepad on right now, just because it's the same as all the other things. So the biggest thing that you want to customize is the KamikazeDrone and the spectator and striker drone. The operator and the vehicle will be relatively stable, should be. But that's using an Xbox controller. So now I want to quickly go over some of the issues I have with my transmitter. Okay, so unfortunately, I cannot find the thing I need to connect this to my computer. So I will just quickly go over the issues I have with this. I know with some transmitters it does work, but this particular one DX6E, it does not work correctly. So I've got all these switches and shit, and some of these it senses and some of these it doesn't. Some of these it senses as an axis, some of these it senses as a button. So if let's say I bound this to spawn a drone, it senses it as a button, not a switch, so I would have to go like this to spawn a drone instead of just flicking it. So it's the same with all these. Again, some of these sense as axes or whatever. Some of these sense as buttons. Another issue I have with this particular transmitter is at full throttle, it does not count as full throttle. It might actually be a setting I have with my transmitter that I need to just figure out, but it does not sense the full axis, but it still senses this as the middle, and this, when I go like this with the bottom, it doesn't quite, when I put the throttle at 0, it goes till about there, and I don't get full throttle control. Same with all my other axes. They're all limited, so everything is a lot more sluggish. So this doesn't work very well for me right now. But with my Xbox controller, it does work pretty well. So that's pretty much it for controllers. The game is still in active development. I'm sure things will change over time. I'm probably going to make some videos on some walkthroughs through missions, if you want to check those out. I'm probably going to make some videos on some mission walkthroughs. If you want to check that out, I'll probably make a playlist or something. Yeah, toodles.